Okay, so let me open my the file I had last class. Here we go. Remember we did this fabulous icon? Right? Okay, so I have one artboard already. One artboard. And what size is this artboard? You say, I don't know. I just made a size. I don't know. How do I find out what size this icon is right now? And measured in pixels. To do that, you go under File, Document Setup. File, Document Setup. In the File, Document Setup, you can see you have an Edit Artboard option right here. See where it says Edit Artboards right here? And inside there, it'll give me the artboard dimension. Oh, you can just click on the Artboard Tool too, right there, Artboard Tool. So if you look in, once you choose the Artboard Tool, you'll see the first one says, here's the name up here. So you can also just click on the Artboard Tool right here, that's fine. You can see the name up here, it says Artboard 1. And this is going to be my 1x icon. So this is going to be the 1x1. This will be my base model. My base model. In this case, you'll notice over here you got a width and a height right here. A width and a height. A width and a height. These are measured in pixels. So if I go over here, I can actually change the width and height. I'm going to change it to the smallest one I'm looking at. In this case, I'm going to go for the iPad mini. Let's do a base model. Let's say the iPhone 4S. Well, no, that's 2X. Let's go to the what's the 1X. So here's a 1X. And let's look. 1X. 76 by 76. Crossed here. It's a 2x, and I'm not sure what the magnification factor here is for. Let me read that for just a moment. So again, yeah, the iOS will actually choose the appropriate size if you give them, and they want you to save it in a PNG format. And don't use interlacing. Don't use interlacing. What is interlacing? Interlacing is where if you remember the old days on the internet when we had slow internet connections, where you used to see a picture and it'd be kind of blurry and get clear as it downloads. Do you remember those days? Some of us might. They were called progressive download, or in this case called interlaced PNG. So again, the format's going to be PNG. The sizes are here, and so what is our base size? That's what I'm looking for. What would a base size be? The iPad mini is a base size 76 by 76, but that doesn't translate into 180 by 180 very easily, does it? So the 60 by 60 seems to be the kind of, it looks like a really good standard. I'm going to go with that just for today's demonstration purposes only. I am not sure that this is the appropriate way. It's kind of confusing on their website. So I'm going to start out with my base one at 60 by 60 pixels. Then I'll do a 2x, which would be 120 by 120, and then a 3x, which would be, what, 180 by 180, right? So that's what I'm going to do just for scaling purposes only. I'm not sure if that's appropriate or not, but that's what I'm going to try. So again, over here when I have the Artboard tool selected, you'll notice the dimensions are up here in the upper corner. So if I start with a base model of 60 pixels by 60 pixels and I hit return on the keyboard, it's going to give me a tiny artboard. You'll notice my art covers the entire artboard. You see that? So how do I scale that down to fit inside there, and how do I scale it down appropriately? Well, in this case, one of the problems that you run into, and I think I explained this last class, is if you go and select all your artwork using Command A on the keyboard, and if you just use the black or the selection tool to scale, what the problem you run into is that the stroke size will stay the same, right? Because my stroke size is, let's see, what is my stroke size? My stroke size is 1.346. Do you see that? My stroke size right here is 1.346. If I select all and just use the black arrow to scale it down, what's going to happen is that that stroke size will stay the same. It'll stay the same. I'm going to zoom in here. Unless I change it. And look, this doesn't fit square in there, does it? Oh, let's set square. Oh, it scaled it. It scaled it. How did I do that? Sometimes it doesn't. You got to double click on the scale feature and make sure it says scale, stroke, and effects. Do you see this where it says scale, stroke, and effects? So make sure that's checked and it should then scale appropriately. So I'm sorry. Again, if it's not working when you're scaling and the stroke size stay the same, it's because this checkbox has not been checked right here. See where it says scale, stroke, and effects? Scale, stroke, and effects right there. So again, if you're using the black arrow and you're scaling your artwork down and the stroke is staying the same, it's because in the scale options, if I double click on the scale options, you got to make sure it says scale, strokes, and effects so that they scale appropriately down as well. That's the point I was trying to make. Okay, let's make another artboard. So I have one artboard. Let's put a little note underneath it. This is my 1x image.
Jeff?
Yes?
I missed the last part. Do you also click scale rectangle corner?
No, I didn't do that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, so here's my single image, 1x image. Okay, how do I make another artboard? How do I make another artboard? Well, in the Artboard tool, you have it right here. It's called the Artboard tool over there. You can either draw it, or I think you can double click on the screen. No, it doesn't work. So just use the Artboard tool, and you can draw a new artboard. Just drag draws a new artboard, and then when you're done dragging it, you can come over here and type in the appropriate size. And of course, we wanted 120, right? By 120. 120 by 120. So start off with an artboard, and then you can move it around if you want. Again, this is the Artboard tool right here, called the Artboard tool. I draw a box. Once I'm done drawing the box, I go over here and I type in a width and a height. So this is good. This is 60 by 60 pixels. This one's going to be my 2x image. I gave it a name. Again, 2x image. I typed in 120 by 120. Did you see that? Here we go. So how do I get my artwork to fit in there? Well, you can select the artwork that's in there, duplicate it. Again, to duplicate, you hold down Option click. Duplicate my artwork. To double the size of my artwork so that it fits inside my box, I can use the scale tool that is right here. The scale tool. Remember the scale tool I was looking at before? If you double click on the scale tool, remember the same area where it says scale, you can say uniform scale, and if we're going up to 2x, we can do what? What number would I put in here? What's double? How about 200% maybe? There we go. How do I then line it up? Okay, so I scaled it up 200%. Again, this will be my 2x I'm going to do the same thing again for another artboard. I'm going to draw another artboard. Again, this is going to be, ooh, look how close to 180 by 180 I was. 180 pixels by 180 pixels. So again, 180 by 180. I'm going to take my artwork that is inside my tool. I'm going to duplicate it. And then again, to scale it, this time to scale it, I'm going to double click on the scale tool again. Scale tool is right here. Double click on it. And of course, we don't want 200%. What do we want? 300%, right? Oh, I guess not 300%. We want that's 3 times the size. How about we undo that? We want to do 200% again, basically. No, that didn't work either. How do I do 3x?
Taking 200 to 300, you want to go 150%.
Let me try this one. If I take the original one, %300% would be 3x? Yeah, that's it. Take the original one. There you go. The first one, the 1x one, and scale it up by 300%. There we go. The first one, scale up. So I have 3 different forms of art inside of my document. So I can't remember. Android has specific naming, but I think in the Apple iOS, you just need to put it in the appropriate folder, I believe. I can't remember the whole naming convention. I'll have to go and review that and let you know. But there's a specific way of naming them. But to save these all out as separate files, you actually save them out as separate images by saving each artboard as a separate artboard. There's no easy way of doing that, and some of the tutorials I saw that we used to use the slice tool. Okay, slice tool, and if you had more than one, and you could export out each slice separately, but I don't think you can do that now for some reason. I don't know, we'll have to think about that. But let's go and save. Okay, so I have 1x image, 2x image, and 3x image. And so how do I save these out as separate artboards? Well, in this case, if you go underneath, well, let's just look at the artboard. There is a pop-up window for the Artboard tool. If you go under Window, you can bring up Artboards. It's called Artboards right here. And the Artboard pop-up menu allows you to, of course, to name your artboard. This one we want 3x image. Okay, so we have a 1x image, 2x image, 3x image. Notice how as I select each one in the Artboards pop-up window, where did I get the Artboards pop-up menu? Under Window, Artboards, that's where it's at. You can rearrange things in here, which one's on top and bottom. You can say New Artboard here if you want. There's Artboard options. Things like that. So there is some artboard, there is a pop-up artboard option, allows you to move things around and do things in there. Yes?
How big was your 3x image again? I missed the picture.
180 by 180.
Okay.
Okay, to save them out, depending upon which one you have selected, we'll save that one. So if I have Artboard 1 selected, like there, if I go under File, I'm going to use the Save for Web option. So again, under File, Save for Web. So under the Save for Web is the area where we can save in different formats than the Illustrator and PDF and all that stuff. So if we go under File, Save for Web, okay, you'll notice there's different options inside here. You got JPEG, you got GIF, JPEG, PNG 8, and PNG 24. And which one did Apple say to use? PNG what? 24-bit. There you go. So you want to use the PNG 24 is the option you should use. That was Apple's suggestion here at the bottom. Here it is. For all images and icons, the PNG format is recommended. You should avoid using interlaced PNGs. The standard bit depth of the icon and images is 24-bit. So you're going to use the 24-bit PNG. So again, 24-bit PNG. You don't need transparency. You can turn it off. What is transparency? Where you have a transparent layer. We're not doing that right now. This is just an icon. Again, don't have interlace checked. It's right here. It causes problems sometimes. Again, it comes from a very older way of doing things in the slow internet connection days when we would save pictures as the picture was downloading. It would be kind of blurry, clear. But that was dial-up days. I don't know if anybody remembers those days, but you know, I bought my first modem that was a 28.8 broad modem, and boy, you know, you would go to a web page and you'd see at least see a little blurry picture before it's been completely downloaded. Blurry, and it gets clearer as it downloads. When you're all done, you can hit save. And I'm going to make a folder. And this is going to be my icon. I can't remember. There was a certain way that you needed to save your files, and I can't remember that. And I made a whole folder, and it's on a different computer, but I made a whole sample for you, and I saved it on a different computer, so I don't have it here. As soon as I find out how to name it, I will let you know. And Android has a certain way of naming things, too. We're going to need to know how to name it appropriately for next semester, right? Take the app class. We'll learn how to make an app. We'll learn how to make sure we do it there. Okay, so hit save. That was the 1x one. Again, how am I selecting which artboard to export? Is by using the Artboard pop-up menu. If I click on the 2x one, see the 2x one is right here, 2x one. I can go under File, Save for Web, 120 by 120. Make sure it's PNG 24. Interlace is turned off. Hit save, and this is called, oh, I think it's called Image 2x, something like that. Then again, click on the artboard you want to export, the artboard you want to export. Then you go under File, Save for Web, and again my 180 by 180. And we're going Image 3x. Let's say I wanted to save this file as an Illustrator file. So if I go under File, Save As, I'm going to save this as an Illustrator file. Then what if I wanted to save this as a PDF so I can send it to somebody? Right? Maybe I want to send this as an example as a PDF to send to somebody so they can approve it. Right? You got to get approval before they pay you. Hey, I need somebody to pay me. Okay, so if we go under File, Save As, you'll notice you have a PDF option right here. A PDF option right here. Notice in the PDF option it also says Use Artboards here. Use Artboards. It's going to save all the artboards together in one PDF document. Or you can choose a range of which artboards you want to do. Right now it has 1 to 3. I guess it's starting with 1. It's not giving me the name, but do you see that? You can actually designate what artboards you want to put in the PDF, or do you want all artboards? So this is under the PDF option inside of File, Save As, and I chose PDF. Did you see that? There's an artboard option under there that you can use all artboards or a range of artboards. Right now I only have 3. I guess it starts from the first one and goes down. It's probably here. Look at the numbering right here. 1, 2, 3. So probably in the artboards pop-up menu. Do you see this? 1, 2, 3. If you had more of them, you could probably choose a range if you wanted, right? If you wanted only 3 through 4, you could probably say that. Do you see that right there? So if we say save, it's going to make a PDF. I'm just going to leave all the default settings there. It should make a PDF. If I can find it, wherever it went. Yeah, messy desktop. And there they are together. But they don't have the text that I had. I don't know why. Oh, because that text wasn't in the artboard. Okay, now I remember that. If you wanted the text to be in the sample, the 1x, 2x, 4x, you actually have to put it in the artboard. Or maybe you make the artboard bigger or something. I don't know. But the text isn't there that I had. Remember I had little letters underneath it? But at least you can send this to somebody and then they can approve it and give you, send a check with your approval. How about that? Yeah?
I feel whenever I'm at the former save Adobe PDF, it's just the same PDF.
Okay, hold on. Let me. So in the Apple icon, here it is. Every app needs a beautiful, memorable app icon that attracts people to the Apple Store and stands out in their home screen. And iOS can use versions of the app icon in Game Center, search results, settings, and so on. For best results, enlist the help of a professional graphic designer. Hopefully they hire you. Okay. So they talk about, how to make an appropriate box. Make it abstract. Don't rip off Apple's stuff. Don't use iOS interface elements. So on. And they want it 120 by 120. So that's the one that's on the home. That's the screen that you see here. So that would be the 2x one. That's the one that you would have. This one, 120 by 120, right? And then here they tell you what it does. Okay, see how it puts the round edges on there. So you don't need to give them round edges. They put the round edges on there for you. So you give them this, and the OS makes it look like that. And then they want a large version for the store. Oh, it needs to be, the large version of your app icon should measure 124 by 124 pixels and be named iTunes Artwork 2 at 2x. See it right here? So in the iTunes store, right? If you go to the iTunes store, you get bigger versions of your icon. So here it is. 124 by 124. So you have all these different icons. Okay, and then you have all these ones here. So I think the best thing would be to sign up for the app class next semester so we can start putting it into the phone operating system. We'll have an emulator on the computer screen so you'll see what it will look like on your phone even before it's on the phone. Have you heard of emulator? Emulator is a way that it emulates the way the phone looks. Okay, so I think it's important though that you understand what size to make things.
Can you use Illustrator for the app class?
Sure.
Oh.
I don't know, Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever format you want to use. I tend to use both. And then they show portrait and landscape sizes and so on, template icons. You should read and understand that. Look at this. All this stuff Apple gives you, you should know all these things. If you know, that way you don't have to relearn them again. I don't want to have to keep teaching you all the same things over and over every semester. So this is a very good reading. It's called the iOS Human Interface Guidelines. You should really know that. Wouldn't it be great to be on a job interview and say you know how to use all these things, right? I know how to make it for the iOS. Android is, there's a link on Android here too, right here. Boom. Okay, let's, I thought we looked at this last class. Didn't we look at this last class? The Android? Right? Again, Android is a little bit different. They use a measurement of dp. dp is their measurement. Okay? And they name it XHDPI, but it's the same concept. You need to scale it up by 1. So if you look at the handout, you got your 1x, 1.5, 2x, 3x, and 4x. So and then they talk about the edge. I don't know, I haven't really made anything for Android yet. They talk about shadows and things like that. Didn't we talk about this last class? Well, we did. So here's the guidelines for Android. Of course, Android is more of a flat design, right, compared to the skeuomorph. Well, it was the other class we were talking about that, right? Skeuomorphism. So there's a whole bunch of guidelines. And then, of course, they have a whole typography section. Of course, the default font is Roboto for Android operating system, and so on. And I know Apple is just such a, Apple's been around for such a long time. Now, if you think about it, it's been what? 20-some years that's been in working, more than that, 30 years that goes into this. Google has just been around, the Android operating system's been around, what, only 5, 6, 7 years at the most? So don't count Android out. They got larger market share than Apple around the world. Maybe not here in Silicon Valley, but around the world. Apple makes billions of dollars because they charge so much for their phones. But don't count Android out. Google has got billions of dollars too, and they're only going to grow bigger and bigger. And of course, Facebook's making their own iOS. Facebook's going to have its own operating system. You're going to be able to buy a phone. You're going to be able to buy a computer that's just Facebook, not even an OS. They've been developing it. I don't know if that's anything, but I know Facebook was making their own OS. Right? And then, you got your Linux OS, you got your Windows OS, the operating systems are coming back. People are customizing, things to make, and Android is a big part of that. They have a lot of ways of, just reading the design guidelines. Look at this, how to design for the screen. How do I design my artwork for the, Android OS? It is how the typography and what size the type needs to be. They give you all that in their guidelines here. You should read them and know about them. Now, next semester we're going to kind of concentrate on Apple. Okay, but Maybe in the future we'll get into Android. Don't have a plan yet for Android. So I have some friends who work in iOS using Android. Don't use stock images, can feel unauthentic. Compared to this one. That's funny. That was funny.